got their way, they won't be packed. In other words, what's happened is vicious things. Look at the Schumer statement that he said when he was on the court steps. So he's no longer protected because he's done, you know, in Congress, if you're a guy like Adam Schiff, you can lie and lie and lie. You can't do anything. You have immunity. But once you step out of that building, Schumer said horrible things. He said a mafia-like statement to the judges. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. But they are playing the ref. You know, playing the ref? Even better than the great Bobby Knight in his prime. I love Bobby Knight. He came out from great state of Indiana. He came out, he endorsed me. It was over in Indiana. But Bobby Knight used to scream at the refs, and they'd say, why are you doing that? You're never going to get the call changed. No, I'm not worried about this call. But the next call they'll be thinking about. That's what's happening with our Supreme Court. That's what's happened. They don't want to be packed. We don't want to have 24 judges. You know, they said 13. I said, the Democrats are too smart for 13. It's an unlucky number. Why would they have 13? So they'll make it 15, but they'll probably make it 23, 21, 19. It'll go up. And you know, if they would have looked at the case, we would have won that case, in my opinion. And they would have never been packed because you would have had a beautiful veto sitting right in the Oval Office. I would have vetoed it because it's a terrible thing. But the Democrats are vicious to the Supreme Court and to Kavanaugh. He's another one. Yeah, Bill Barr, they screamed, we're going to impeach him, we're going to impeach him. And it changes people. And how about Brett Kavanaugh? We're going to impeach him on women that admitted, ultimately, that nothing happened. They weren't even in the country, one of them. It was all a made-up scam. They should be prosecuted. They should be prosecuted. And they weren't. But with Brett Kavanaugh, they're screaming, we're going to impeach him every time you vote. We're going to impeach him. And you know what? How does he get out of that? By voting for the Democrats. So it's a very sad thing. And he went through what no other person I have ever seen go through. That hearing was the most vicious, horrible hearing, I think, in the history of our country. I don't think there's ever been anything worse than that. In New York City and state, far-left Democrats actually ran for office, promising to prosecute me, my family, and my company, without knowing anything about me. I never even heard of these people. They knew nothing about me. We're going to get him. We're going to get him. We're going to get Trump. And she won. She won. A lot of people running. She won. On the basis, we're going to get him. What did he do? I don't know, but we'll find something. No, how would you like this? They're in search of a crime. To them, it did not matter whether any laws had been broken. The crime was opposing the radical left Democrat Party. This is lawless and tyrannical behavior. It's a political persecution, like something straight out of the communist countries that you see around the world, the few that are left. Yet it's happening here in America at the hands of radical left Democrats. And the Republicans, again, they just don't seem to understand at that top level what the hell is happening. They don't do it the same way. And maybe they're going to have to change. Our job and our mission is to resist this poison and fight for our republic with all of our heart and with all of our soul. For decades, the career politicians who sold out our country, shipped away our millions and millions of jobs, and sent our children to die in endless foreign wars have gotten away with the most flagrant corruption imaginable. These people sold out our country. As Vice President Joe Biden flew his son Hunter around the world on Air Force Two, sucking up money like a vacuum cleaner. Hunter's emails show that he collected millions and millions of dollars from foreign nations, including Ukraine, while setting aside a cut to the big guy. Who is the big guy? That's Joe Biden. Well, that's not allowed to. And Joe Biden said they're not getting the $1 billion unless that prosecutor is out. What the hell? Could you imagine if I said that? If I said that, They impeached me and nothing happened. Can you imagine if I said, they're not getting their billion, and voila, he was gone. He was bragging. I don't know what the hell he was thinking when did he know the tape was running when he did that? And nothing happens. Nothing happens. You know why? Because Bill Barr is a nice man. Bill Barr and the Republicans are too nice. They're too nice. These are vicious, vicious people. And they will destroy our country, and they will do whatever they can to do it. Hunter said that he gave half of his salary to Pop, and that he paid vast amounts of money for Joe Biden's expenses. Now, Joe Biden has all these houses. He's always been like a senator or a congressman, right? For many years. Louis, I didn't know you made that kind of money, that you had mansions. You have mansions? Does Louis Gohmert have mansions all over Texas? I don't think so. He's got one house, and that's enough. That's all you need, right, Louis? Wants to go home to his bathroom and his bedroom and uses one toothbrush, right? No, but Joe's got a lot of toothbrushes. Yet not a single member of our treacherous, corrupt political establishment has ever experienced anything like the deranged and demented persecution that has been directed at me, my family, and everyone associated with us, everybody. I came down the escalator with our great future First Lady. She was great. She had a very successful career, did really well until she met me. So much for that career. That's all right. She's cool. She's the coolest, the most confident person. She gets it better than anybody. And she loves you people. She loves you. But that's when all of these witch hunts began, all because I put America first, all because of MAGA. Make America great again. And now it's also because I got more votes, 75 million, than anybody in the history of the presidency. And far more than Clinton, far more than Obama, and a record 12 million more than 2016. Think of it, in the history, usually they go down a little bit second term, and they win, but they go down a little bit. I was told by a great pollster, really somebody great, John McLaughlin, one of the most respected, sir, you got 63 million votes. If you get it up to 64 or 65, nobody can beat you. Can't lose. Thank you, John, very much. I got it to 75, and I lost, in quotes. I lost. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And what they've done to this movement, I think they've made the movement stronger. I'll tell you, in a certain way, I think they've made it stronger. I'll never forget it. On election night, we did so much better than they ever thought in their wildest imagination that they just said, the hell with it, let it go. What they did. I'm also leading in the polls against Harris, because not a lot of people think that Joe's going to be running, but you never know. This is a strange world. And everyone else who's going to run on the radical left, whether it's on the Democrat side or I love my Republicans, but we're really kicking their ass too. But we love them. But we like it because they're friends of ours, right? So it's okay. I think we can say that affectionately. No, they're great. They're great. And they're working hard. And you saw a lot of them this weekend. But the Democrats want me out, and they want me out as fast as possible. And here I am. I could have a nice, beautiful life. And here I am on a Sunday in Texas. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, I said to Matt and Mercedes, you know, because I've done this and we've had, and by the way, you have a poll coming out. Unfortunately, I want to know what it is. You know they do that straw poll, right? Now, if it's bad, I say it's fake. If it's good, I say that's the most accurate poll perhaps ever taken. And I know they have it. I guess it gets announced after. I want to find out. Are you going to? Oh, he won't. He won't tell me. I know, Matt. He won't tell me. Well, whatever the hell they get it released. I'll tell you, here's the story. If it's bad, it'll be front page news in the newspapers. If it's great, they won't even cover it. I hate to tell you that, Matt. And I don't want to convince him to do a bad poll, but, you know, the straw poll. So I did this years ago. And I got these great straw polls. It was the first time I ever did it, right? You know, I was a novice, but it was right here at CPAC. And I'm so proud of the job. I mean, look at this room. Look at outside. We have thousands of people trying to come in. I mean, our only thing is next time we'll have to get a bigger place, I guess, right? Next time. But I said to Matt, and much more importantly, I said to Mercedes, I said, give me Death Valley. Give me the worst time, the worst slot. We'll fill it up. He said, well, sir, that would be Sunday afternoon because most people are doing other things. I said, that's okay, Matt. You don't have to give me Friday night or Saturday night, which is easy. That's too easy. We love doing it the hard way. I said, give me any time you want on Sunday. That's good. I'll fly in. And look at this crowd we get. And look at the love in this room. Look at the love, right? No, we'll give Saturday night to Louis and to the Doc. We'll give Saturday night to Byron. We're going to give Saturday night to Devin. We're going to give somebody Friday night, which is almost as good. They give me Sunday, and I love Sunday. You know why? It reminds me of church. That's okay. But no, I'm honored that, you know, it really is. I said, give me your worst time. I don't care. And he gives me the worst time. He actually did. And he just broke his record. The radical left and the failed political establishment hates our movement for a simple reason, because together we took on the corrupt special interests. We faced down the open borders that you're seeing so much. How bad are these borders? They're coming out of the prisons. They're coming out of everywhere in these other countries. They think we're so stupid. They're letting their prisoners out, floating in through the caravans, come into our country, murderers, drug dealers, human traffickers of women. It's mostly women. We stood up to the absurd dictates of political correctness, and we called out the people who were getting rich, bleeding our country dry, and many of them were politicians. Against the howls and cries of the corporate interests and the Washington lobbyists, we demanded fair trade for the American workers, and we did a great job on that. We finally ended the worst trade deal in the history of our country, NAFTA. One of the worst trade deals. I don't want to disrespect our past, but the people that negotiated that deal were either stupid or corrupt. They say both. Could be. We withdrew from the horrible Trans-Pacific Partnership, would have destroyed your automobile business. We pulled out of the World Health Organization scam. You know, the World Health Organization, I pulled out because they're like a pipe organ for China, right? So I pulled out. They called me, they want us back. So the guy's just, nice guy, you know, wants us back. Sir, we really want you back. We really want you back. I said, how much are we paying? Almost $500 million a year. How much is China paying? $39 million a year. I said, okay, so let me ask you a question. We have 325 million people, not including illegal aliens, which who the hell knows? I don't think they have any idea what we're, but we have 325 million people. China has 1.4 billion people. They're paying 39. We're paying 500. So let me ask you a question. Would you take us back if we paid 39? Yes. I said, okay, I'm going to think about it. But when I pulled out, it was so popular, I couldn't even get back in for 39 because everybody, including Doc Ronnie, thought it was amazing that I pulled out because he understands it's a pipe organ for China and for others, but mostly for China. So I said, so I would get back in for 39 million? Yes, sir. Okay, that was it. I didn't go back in even at 39. In other words, I turned it down. And now, because of the rigged election, we're out. He's in. And he immediately says, we're going back in. He went back in for the same price that they were paying before. Now, you know what? 450 million in terms of when you're dealing with billions and trillions and all of this, it's a lot of money. This is a year. This is every year. We pay almost 500 million. They pay 39 million. Their country is much larger. But why wouldn't they say, we'll do it for 39, or in theory, less. Let us in for 10. I think they would have taken it. In fact, one of the reasons I wasn't happy, I should have started off lower, Matt. Instead of 30, I said, how about, would you do it for 9? Proportional, right? So they go back in, and nobody said, we'll go back in, but we want to come back in at 39 million or 30 million or 20 million. They said, we'll go back in, and now they're going to be paying what we've been ripped off for years. And we don't have control of it. China has total, absolute control. We have none. What do you think of that? Matt in the second row, our acting attorney general, he took a lot of abuse. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for being here up here. I just see you there. Thank you. So think of it. So we have this deal, and they just go in. This is the way our country runs. It's the way our country runs. We built an aircraft carrier, and the aircraft carrier has all sorts of problems. It's the Gerald Ford. They decided to use magnets for the elevators that bring magnets. You're in the middle of the ocean, big waves, bullets being shot at your ship, you got magnets. I could take this little glass of water, drop it in the magnets, that's the end of the elevator. And then they throw the plane off. And they decide to do it through electric instead of steam, right? Catapult, it's called. So they have a catapult. And for 60 years, it's been steam operated. They decide to do it, let's make it out of electric. So I go to the ship because it's been under construction for years. It was going to cost $2.5 billion. It's going to end up costing 18 billion. But the bad news is it doesn't work. They even moved the tower from the center to the back of the ship, making it much harder for pilots to land. By the way, the single hardest thing for a pilot to do is land on an aircraft carrier. Even great pilots can't do it. If they're a little bit claustrophobic, you know, that carrier looks big, but when you're up there flying and moving along at rapid speeds and you're looking at this massive ocean and you have a little deck that you have to land on, it's the hardest thing to do. So they moved the thing back so it made it much tighter instead of putting it in the middle where it's a wider part of the ship, a whole thing. Another thing, what's under there? That's, sir, where they keep the ammunition. I said, wait a minute. They built the tower. I don't want to be the captain of that ship, by the way. So I said, I went to visit the ship, and I wasn't interested in seeing the admiral. The admiral said, sir, Admiral so-and-so, the thing's out to sea trials, it's not working. And I said, Admiral, honestly, I think you're a wonderful man, very good-looking guy, actually. You're like central casting, but I want to see the catapulters. So I meet these 5 guys, real great guys. They're catapulters. How long have you been doing it, Jim? Sir, 21 years. I said, let me ask you, you have a problem with it? Absolutely, sir, it doesn't work. Why? He said, because if it breaks, you have to go through graduate school at MIT to fix it. And with the steam, we had the same power or more, and we could fix it with a blowtorch and a hammer. And I love that steam in my face, sir. I said, but seriously, which is better? He said, the steam. I said, why did they go with electric? Because, sir, it can go back and forth automatically all day long. I said, is that good or bad? He said, unnecessary, because it takes us 1 minute and 59 seconds to put the plane on and hook it up. And by the time we do that, sir, we're all set. We have so much steam, we don't know what to do with it. So I said, so you mean they spent all of this money? They spent $900 million as of a year ago to try and fix it, okay? 900 million. It'll never work. I told them that when I first came in. I'm very good at this stuff. I said, electric, give me a glass of water. I will put it out of commission. I'll throw it on the electric circuits. It's not going to work. And it's just, I mean, we do things so stupidly. So they're at $18 billion. And I said, did you sue the shipyard? No, sir. Then I meet with the architect. I said, you're the architect, yes. Have you ever designed a ship before? My first question, have you ever designed a ship before? I'm telling you, foreign countries are laughing at us. They're laughing at us. How stupid we are. We renegotiated the Korea trade deal, and we built the greatest economy in the history of the world with a record 160 million people working. We were never close. And I do not want to see any negotiations of tax increases by Senate Republicans, because I see certain rhinos, they keep walking over to the White House. They're getting fleeced. I feel so badly, you know. Guys like Romney, and they walk over to the White House. The other half, the senator from Louisiana, he was over there. I don't want to name them all, because a couple of them are fine. But they go over there, they're getting fleeced. They come out, we have a deal. We have a deal. Remember England? We have a deal. You don't want to get into that. We have a deal. They said they had a deal. 20 minutes later, when the radical left heard that Biden agreed to something, they went crazy. And then Biden said, we don't have a deal anymore. They're getting fleeced. And what they're doing is they're saying, we'll agree to raise your taxes if you approve this radical left infrastructure deal, where most of the money, almost none of the money, is going to real infrastructure, which is roads, bridges, etc. And I'm telling the Republican senators right now that we're not going to stand for it if you raise our taxes. We had the greatest tax decrease in the history of our country, and we're not going to have you raise it in order to say you made a bipartisan deal. You know, they're dying to say, Matt, that we made a bipartisan deal. You don't have to do that, because you're getting fleeced. It's all Green New Deal stuff. It's nonsense, and it's going to destroy our country. And inflation's going to be a big problem. We can't let it happen. Despite the pleading and begging of the outsourcers and globalists, I took on China like no president had ever done before, imposing massive tariffs to protect American workers and bring jobs and factories and billions of dollars back. You know that, back to our shores. We made a great deal with China, which has immeasurably helped our farmers and manufacturers. And we put the Chinese Communist Party on defense. For the first time ever in the history of our country, we never took in 10 cents. They're paying us billions. And you know, it's interesting. Biden, he wants to end the tariffs. If he does, China will take over the whole deal, okay? But they're finding it hard to do. He campaigned on ending tariffs, which was stupid, although maybe not so stupid, right? Who the hell? Well, you know what happened. You know what happened. But he campaigned on ending tariffs. So ridiculous. We're taking billions and billions, and we convince the world that we have to watch China. You know, when I took over, we had a deficit with China of $507 billion. That's not sustainable. 507, not million, 507 million's a lot. $507 billion. But now China is totally on the offense, making Joe Biden and our country look weak, soft, and pathetic. We ignored the hysterics of the socialist left and withdrew from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord, one of the great ripoffs. Would have cost us $1 trillion. We unleashed America's energy resources and achieved American energy independence for the first time in the history of our country. And we don't need windmills in Texas and lots of other places. We don't need windmills. They ought to end that program as quickly as they can. When the plague came in from China, I dragged the slow and complacent bureaucrats from the FDA and the CDC into the Oval Office. I pushed them like they have never been pushed before. And thanks to the relentless efforts of my administration and me, we got miraculous therapeutics straight to patients with historic speed, and we produced 3 vaccines to end the pandemic in record time. Would have never happened. Would have never happened. We did it in less than 9 months. They said a minimum of 3 years, probably 5 years, and sir, it probably won't happen at all. And if we didn't have that, we would be in a position like perhaps over 100 years ago, right? 1917, over 100 people, I hear different numbers, but perhaps as many as 100 million people died. We beat back the failed foreign policy establishment to withdraw from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. We recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. We ended the endless wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, and other countries. And we brought our beautiful troops back home. Now terrible things are happening in Afghanistan. We had everything in place to finish withdrawing responsibly, and Joe Biden is turning it into a total disaster. They don't respect him. He's leaving behind billions and billions of dollars of equipment. I told these generals, I want every nail brought back home. I want the tanks brought back home. I want it all brought back home. And instead, the Taliban is now parading around with our weapons that Joe Biden allowed them to capture. It's a disgrace. But with all of that being said, we should get out. 21 years is enough. 21 years. 21 years is enough. In everything we do, we refuse to bow down to the radical left, the rhinos, the political establishment, and instead we insist on standing up for America and making America great again and always putting America first. America's got to be first. Every day more people are realizing that we were right on all of the key issues, and that this is one reason why our endorsement has become, and it's really not just my endorsement, it's your endorsement, has become the most powerful weapon in politics. Last year, exact numbers, because if they weren't exact, they will come out at me, you wouldn't believe. 120 of the 122 candidates we endorsed in congressional primary elections won. So think of that. And the 2 that didn't, actually, they turned out to be great Trump people. They really did. They turned out to be great. But we had a great string of endorsements. We love the candidates we endorse. We're endorsing a lot of good ones right now. In the Senate primary elections, we were undefeated, 21-0, 21-0. Can't say I'm happy about all of them, but that's okay. So far in the 2022 election cycle, we are already 10-0 on endorsements. And you're going to check this, and they're going to check. Oh, they'll be checking tonight. Matt, they're going to be up there tonight checking. Oh, they want to find it. It's not 10-0, it's 10-1. He lied. He's a terrible person. In the face of the Biden administration's far-left campaign to transform our country and erase our history, we are not backing down. We will never back down. When we regain control of Congress, we will immediately regain control of our border, and it's not that easy. I watch a lot of our good congressmen get onto it. All we have to do is redo the Trump edict. It's not that easy. We negotiated with those countries, and it wasn't simple. Very complex. We had it better than ever before. It's so sad to see what happened. We will hold China accountable for the damage and suffering they have caused and make them pay trillions of dollars in reparations to us and to the world. We will break up the big tech monopolies and bring back free speech. We can't let this continue. We will take back our elections. And finally, we will always include a thing called voter ID. That's another thing. The Democrats are now saying, oh, we always wanted voter ID. There was a poll, 88% of the people in the country want voter ID, so now the Democrats, again, same old story. They're saying, we want voter ID. We've always wanted voter ID. These people are sick. We will completely defund and bar critical race theory. 1776, not 1619, if you don't mind. And if government-run schools are going to teach children to hate their country, we will demand school choice, and we already have been. If you listen to the media or watch the evening newscasts, our country has really gone bad. All we talk about is race. That's all they talk about, race. The whole show, race, race. We don't talk about our country being great anymore. We don't talk about how America can lead the world. We don't talk about stopping crime or the hundreds and hundreds of people that are being shot in Democrat-run cities and what to do about it. We don't talk about ending the drugs pouring across our borders, which I had greatly reduced with our wall and so many other things that we're doing. And most importantly, we never talk about the great future of our country. We don't talk about any of this stuff anymore. The Democrat-controlled media talks race, race, race for political reasons. And they always have, but never like this. But it's hurting our country, and more than anyone else, our great minority communities. It's hurting them very badly. The Democrat obsession with race is only dragging us backward into the past, and it is bringing our country down to a point where even China and Russia are lecturing us on human rights, race, and they're doing it in a very humiliating fashion. This never happened. Never happened with me. During my administration, our country was respected again. It is no longer respected. In conclusion, our party and our movement, we're all united by the same shared American values and by unyielding resolve to defend our beloved nation for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We take great pride in our country, and we teach the truth about our history. We celebrate our rich heritage and national traditions. We honor George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and all of our national heroes. And of course, we always respect our great American flag. We believe in patriotic education for our children, and we strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. We are committed to defending innocent life and to proudly upholding the Judeo-Christian values of our nation's founding. We embrace free thought. We stand up to political correctness, and we reject the intolerance of left-wing cancel culture. We believe in our Constitution and in law and order. We want law and order. We demand law and order. We don't want people shot and killed in our cities. We totally respect and support the men and women of law enforcement. They will never be defunded. We are devoted to our communities. We are loyal to our fellow citizens. And above all, we live by the words of our national motto, "In God we trust." These are the convictions that define our movement today and must define the Republican Party, which has truly become the party of the working man and woman. The working man, the working woman. That's what's happening. Look how many people are joining. We have a much different party than we had 5 years ago. You were in big trouble, Republicans, and look what's happening. Now, for the next 16 months, we must pour every ounce of our energy into winning a historic victory in the midterms. We will never give up our search for truth and justice for what happened in the corrupt presidential election of 2020, because without that truth, we cannot have an honest election in 2022 or 2024, no matter what they want to tell you. And our country will soon stand proudly for free and strong and proper elections again. The election fraud of 2020 is the single most requested topic for me and others to talk about, ahead of the border, even ahead of crime, because think of what they've done. What they've done is so sad. Look what's happened to our country in just a short number of months. Everyone here today and every conservative all across our land needs to decide right now that together we will save this country. We must decide that we will not stop, we will not rest until our American heritage of freedom, liberty, and justice is once again safe and once again secure. We owe our country nothing less than that. Our glorious American inheritance was passed down to us by generations of American patriots who gave everything they had, their sweat, their blood, and even their way of lives to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. And we are not going to let it be taken away from us by a small group of radical left Marxist maniacs. We're not going to let it happen. We will protect and defend our cherished American legacy and freedom for ourselves, for our children, and for every future generation. My fellow Americans, our movement is the greatest in American history, and it has just begun. With your help, your devotion, your brilliance, and your drive, we will carry forward the torch of American liberty. We will lead the conservative movement and the Republican Party back to victory, and it will be a greater victory than this party has ever had. We will take back the House. We will take back the Senate. And then, after witnessing all that has gone wrong in our country in such a short period of time, with our borders, with our economy, with crime, we will take back that glorious White House that sits so majestically in our nation's capital. Beautiful White House, that's small letters, White House, that beautiful White House, and it is the most beautiful house of all. Working together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you.
Yourself off the ground, I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town, there's no need to be unhappy, young man, there's a place you can go, I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for young men to enjoy.
Before former President Trump spoke at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Dallas, his former White House advisor and speechwriter Stephen Miller addressed the gathering. Mr. Miller talked about how the Trump administration brought a new age of conservatism.
Boy, do I love CPAC, and do I love each and every one of you. So I want to start today by saying thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for coming here and waking up every morning and fighting so hard to save this country and to save our American dream, which is under attack like never before. It would not be possible without you. So I want you to all give yourselves a round of applause for everything you've done for our country, because we're going to need you in the months ahead more than ever. And I also want to say thank you to somebody who's not here yet, but who you'll be hearing from very soon, which is the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. God blessed me with the great fortune of getting to be an eyewitness to history for the last 6 years, from the campaign through the whole White House, and I was proud to be there each and every day, always faithful, always true. And I can tell you, from what I have seen, what I have witnessed, what I have experienced, what you all know to be true, which is that no president has ever fought harder, with more strength, more passion, and more force to defend this country than Donald J. Trump. He fought the Marxists, the socialists, the radical left. He fought the open borders lunatics. He fought big tech. He fought big business. He fought China. He fought the terrorists. Every single person trying to steal our dream and our nation, he fought and kept fighting. And that's why they kept coming after him, because he never backed down in standing up for each and every one of you. Under President Trump, a new conservatism was forged. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. What Donald Trump understood, and what this new conservative populism understands, is that America is more than the sum of our GDP. The measure of our nation is far more than the measure of our balance sheet. America is a living, breathing thing. It has a beating heart, it has a beautiful soul, and it has proud, patriotic citizens like each and every one of you. For years, professional conservatives and professional Republicans, all they ever wanted to do was talk about GDP, GDP, GDP. Well, you know what? President Trump did an amazing job growing this economy. But what's so much more important than that is defending this nation's heritage, its culture, its values, so that our children, our sons and daughters, can grow up in a country that is proud of its past and proud of its destiny. I speak to you today, I would gladly trade, if I had the choice, 1 point off the GDP, if in exchange, every single American child could go to a school where they were taught to love their country, its values, its heroes, its history, its story. No nation, ladies and gentlemen, no nation can long survive that teaches its own children to hate it. That's as unnatural as a family that discards its own children. We are doomed, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't stand up for our nation's children. We are doomed if we don't. And I know that you will. With all of your heart and soul, I know that you will. Because you understand the most important truth of all. America is not an idea. America is a nation. A nation has families. A nation has towns. It has communities. A nation raises armies. A nation has a culture, a story, a heritage. These are the things worth fighting and dying for. And a nation, ladies and gentlemen, a nation has borders. Ideas don't have borders or boundaries. Ideas don't have towns and families, and ideas don't have citizens. So we are a nation that believes in ideas, but we are still, ladies and gentlemen, a nation not only with the right, but the sacred duty to take care of our own citizens above every other consideration. Our own children, our own families, our own communities, and to defend and protect our own sovereign borders is a sacred obligation from which we must never, ever back down. There's something truly warped, truly disturbing about the fact that there are some in this country who believe that the highest praise we can offer to call someone a dreamer is a title reserved for illegal aliens. It's an insult. It's an offense. It's a way of demeaning your own families and children whose dreams matter more than any other person in the world because they're American. They're our own children. I don't care if they're black or white or brown, but if you are an American citizen, then you are the dreamer that I am fighting for. You are the dreamer that matters. You are the dreamer that we need to be fighting for, standing up for, cherishing, protecting, and loving. And that's what this comes down to. It comes down to how much do we love our own children in this country? How hard are we willing to fight for our own American children, no matter where their ancestors came from? My life just changed in a big way. I'm the proud father of a 7-month-old daughter. Now, like you, I always believed in God. But the first time I held her in my arms, it was as if the whole majesty of creation was revealed to me. And I know many of you here today have felt and experienced the same thing. And so when I think about what motivates me, it's her, and it's your daughters too, and your sons, and those of every loyal, patriotic American. That's what gets me up in the morning, because my daughter and your daughters and your sons, they're entitled to parents that love and will fight for them, to schools that will care for them, not indoctrinate them, and they're entitled to a government that will put their needs first, last, and always. Because if we don't fight for and protect our own children, then who will? Not big tech, not big business, not the politicians in Washington. That's what motivates me, and I suspect it's what motivates each and every one of you. The idea that our children deserve to grow up in a country that cares about them, that protects them, that defends them, and that understands that they need to be the first in line when they graduate from college for a job, not a foreign citizen from a foreign country, that their factory, their business, their economic prospects matter more than some plant, some factory, some business in China or Asia or Mexico or any other country. That made in America matters, not just as an economic necessity, but as a moral necessity. That hiring American workers to do the job matters, not just for economic reasons, but for moral reasons. These are moral principles, ladies and gentlemen. The moral duty that we owe to our children and our children's children. That is the new conservatism. As of this moment in time, the Republican Party must file for divorce from big business and never look back. It must cite irrevocable differences and walk away from the oligarchs, the multinational corporations, and all the other massive business conglomerates that have no loyalty to this country. And it's time to file for divorce from the multi-billionaires like Bezos and Zuckerberg and Tom Steyer and everybody else. We have a disloyal elite in this country. The wealthiest, most privileged, most powerful people are trying to destroy this country. This has never happened before. Say what you will about Rockefeller, Carnegie, the other titans of years past, Guggenheim. At least they loved this country. At least they cared about its heritage. So I'll close today by asking you a few questions. Do you love the United States of America? Do you love its history? Do you love its heroes? Do you love the titans of the past, the adventurers, Davy Crockett and Lewis and Clark and Neil Armstrong and George Washington? Do you love all of the American greats and icons that made us who we are? Do you love our nation's culture? Do you love our nation's Constitution? Do you love our nation's borders? Then I need each and every one of you to wake up every morning and ask yourself the question, what will I do today to make America stronger and safer and more secure? I need each and every one of you to wake up and say, what can I do, me, myself, today as a proud citizen, to do my part to ensure that this country survives and thrives for another generation? And I'll leave you with this thought. The most powerful force that we have. We don't have all the money, folks. No, Jeff Bezos has all the money. We don't have the media. We know that. We don't have education, although we're taking it back. We don't have journalism. We don't have the legal profession. The deck is stacked against us pretty good. But there's one thing that we have, and it's the same thing that sent our American ancestors across the plains to settle the West, to victory in every great American battle. It's the same thing that sent people in covered wagons. It's the same thing that inspired the lawmen and the sheriffs and the frontier to establish law and order. It's the same thing that has willed patriots to victory in every generation. And it's the spirit that lives inside your heart as patriots. That's what we have. That's what you have. And if you act on that, if you seek guidance from God and strength and courage from our Creator, and you call upon the American spirit within yourself, if you remember that you are a proud citizen in the greatest country that has ever existed, and you call upon that force and you act on it every day, then I promise you this: though times may seem bleak, we will prevail, we will win, we will take back this country, we will reclaim our destiny, we will reclaim our borders, we will establish an immigration policy, a trade policy, an education policy, and a foreign policy that puts America first, that puts American children first, and that puts American families first. Ladies and gentlemen, we will triumph. God bless you. God bless Texas. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Also this afternoon, Florida Senator Rick Scott spoke at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Dallas. He chairs the National Republican Senatorial Committee. He talked about the 2022 midterm elections.
Well, it's great to be in Texas, the great state of Texas, and it's great to be back at CPAC. By the way, watching that video, I think Matt did a great job, so let's give him a big round of applause. So I want to start by thanking Matt and his whole team for putting this together. They did also a great event in Florida, the great Sunshine State. Just before coming on stage, I had the opportunity to give Matt the National Republican Senatorial Committee's Champion for Freedom Award. to honor him for all the work he's done to support the conservative cause. So let's give him a big round and a big round of applause for that. So it's great to be here. My wife is actually from Dallas. She told me it was never cold here. She said there's never any ice storms. Is that right? Not exactly. So both of our daughters, we lived here for about 18 years. Both of our daughters were born here, and one daughter still lives here in Austin with her family. And so it's a great place to come home to. You know, when I was here, I worked here quite a while. One of the things I did, I worked along the border. Have any of you been to Donna, Texas? Yep, right along the border. When I went there, we could work, and at the end of our day, we would go across the border into Mexico for dinner. You can't do that today. It's become extremely dangerous. Biden and Harris are directly responsible for this. This is clearly a border crisis, and no one knows it better than the people that live along the border and actually all over the state of Texas. I think we all should find it disgusting that Biden and Harris can sit idly by when you see a little 14-year-old boy, Nicaraguan boy, frightened because he was left in the desert by himself to die. Think about that. They're just sitting, Biden and Harris act like there's no problem here, but there's a 14-year-old little boy worried that he's going to die. Did you see that picture of those two little Ecuadorian girls, the 3- and 5-year-olds, dropped over a 14-foot wall, just abandoned in the middle of the night? Doesn't it disgust you? I mean, think about it. All of us, we all know, we can all think of a 3- and 5-year-old little girl. What are they doing? They're playing out in the park. They're playing with their toys. But these girls were left alone, scared, and they had to be terrified, right? They probably just traveled hundreds of miles, probably had one set of clothes. They were, their whole family was worried about what was going to happen, just dropped in a foreign place. That's what Biden and Harris are doing. I've talked to Border Patrol agents that said that women, they're so worried about being raped that they cover themselves with feces so they'll be disgusting to men. This is what Biden and Harris are doing. It's disgusting. And Harris has a cavalier attitude to this whole human toll that's happening around our border. And this is their crisis. It's Biden and Harris' crisis. They don't want to call it a crisis. They don't want the media to go down. They don't want us to talk about it at all. This is just emblematic of what we've got in our leadership in Washington right now. Going to the border, Harris had no interest in doing. But as you know, she finally came to El Paso a few weeks ago. And it's all, she had to come. She had to come because of her failed leadership. That's why she was there. Now, she could have gone with Governor Abbott. She could have gone with President Trump and seen the real crisis. The crisis caused when you don't finish a border wall, when you don't electrify cameras and lights. So what we have to do is we have to talk about this, and we have to fight every day to make sure we have a secure border, and we've got to call the Democrats out for exactly what they are doing. Now, that's my job. I'm the new chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. We are going to win in 22. And as a U.S. Senator, I will do it every day. And I know your senators from Texas are doing it every day. We're going to fight for a secure border. Now, I've been there 2 years. Every week we go to Washington, D.C., almost every week. You know, it's not full of a lot of conservatives like you. You know, strong conservatives are not really accepted in D.C. right now. The Democrats control Washington. They control the House, the Senate, and the White House. But you know what? They do not control our country. We do. They want to control the way we think, what we say, how we say it, and what we do. But we together will never allow that. Democrats want to tell us what to say and how to say it, or else we will be canceled from our jobs, our churches, our schools, our entire life. They want to cancel us. How many of you are not even sure what you can say right now? You're worried about what you can say will be socially acceptable. I believe there's going to be a big backlash coming. It's going to come from all of us, and there's nothing the Democrats can do to stop us. Now, in my 2 years in D.C., I've watched a lot of crazy things. You wouldn't believe how things work up there. So I've watched the Democrats what? They want to defund the police. They want gut funding for our military. We've watched the Democrats push for open borders and closed schools. We watched them try to impeach a duly elected president twice for nonsense. But those aren't even the craziest things they're trying to do. No, the craziest bill that they have is what they call the For the People Act. Have you heard of it? So let's call it, it's not for the people. We should call it what it is. It's called the Corrupt Politicians Act. So far, we've been able to block this insane partisan Washington power grab from the Democrats. But they're going to try it again and again and again. This is their whole focus. They will do anything to gain power and try to control our elections and all future elections in this country. They don't want free and fair elections. They want elections only Democrats can win. So let me start by asking you a couple questions. How many, do you believe it's racist to require voters to show their ID? Of course not. Now, think about it. It's common sense. You have to show it to open up a checking account. And you do have to, I think we should tell the Delta CEO, you do have to do it when you get on an airplane also. But the Democrats' plan is to block it. Now, not for everything, just for elections. Now, do you want unmonitored, unattended drop boxes or liberal groups harvesting ballots so they can pick and choose? Well, I don't think that would be a vote my way. I want to put that one in. Just pick which ones I want to discard and which ones I put in. Do we want that? The American people don't either. The Democrat bill does both of those things. The Democrats bill, here's the best part. The Democrats' Corrupt Politicians Act has you paying for their political attack ads. How many of you think that we should be paying for Democrats' political attack ads with your money? Now, we're not talking about a little bit of money. We're talking about a lot of money. So here's some examples. Arizona, Democrat Mark Kelly is running next November, and we will beat him. But he will get, if this bill passed, he would get as much as $18 million of your tax dollars. How about Raphael Warnock in Georgia? He would get as much as $25 million of your tax dollars. New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, by the way, call Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, to make sure you want him to run for Senate. If he does, we will win. But Maggie Hassan would get as much as $9 million. Cortez Masto in Nevada, she would get as much as $11 million. In Colorado, Michael Bennet, he'll get up to $11 million, or $16 million. Now, let's talk about our good friend Chuck Schumer. Now, Chuck Schumer, don't you just love the guy? So, you know, he's not partisan at all. So he says we have to pass this bill. He's working on it really hard because we have to pass it to save democracy. No, he wants to pass it to save his skin. Guess how much he would get? Up to $45 million of your money to run attack ads. It's corruption for the Democrats right out in the open. And it's based on a complete lie. There's no basis for this. Now, first off, we should all congratulate the Arizona GOP because they had a historic victory in the Supreme Court, right? So, thank God for President Trump's picks to the Supreme Court. They upheld the election security laws in Arizona. So now, hopefully, in 22, we're going to have all across the country a secure, free, and fair election, which is all we expect. But the Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail to strip states of all local control. But we have to be reunited as conservatives and as Republicans to make sure that every election is free and fair. In free and fair elections, we win. But this lie is a complete lie from Biden on down. They believe if you have any election reform, all we're trying to do, we're racist and we're trying to oppress voters. It's a complete lie. We have to stand up and say the Democrats are lying. Voter ID is not racist. It's common sense. Preventing ballot harvesting or drop boxes aren't secure, it's not racist, it's common sense. Preventing illegal immigrants from voting is not racist, it's common sense. The Democrats' Corrupt Politicians Act is a clear assault on free and fair elections and erodes state safeguards that are going to make sure our elections are fair, and in a free and fair election, we will win. Our goal is maximum participation in zero fraud, period. Not some fraud, not 1,000 ballots here and 1,000 ballots there, zero fraud. The Democrats call everything they don't like racist. Now, you know, the filibuster is racist, right? Even though Biden, when he was a senator, and many Democrats used it to block bills, and the Democrat did last year to block Tim Scott's police reform bill, but somehow all of a sudden it's become racist. The Democrats are complete hypocrites. And they're teaching our kids that America is racist. We are not racist. This country is not a racist country. Democrats are absolutely wrong. America is the greatest country in the history of the world, a country that's given more opportunities to people to live their individual dreams than any place on earth. Now, in the past, Republicans have been intimidated when Democrats call us racist. But we got to stop being intimidated. We can't allow that. The Democrats know that they lose on actual policy. We win on policy, so that's when they play the race card. We can't stand down and we can't cower to the Democrats calling us names. They're going to call us racist no matter what we do. That game has to be over. We've got to stand up and fight for what we believe in. Fight for our conservative principles. We're going to fight for free, fair, and secure elections. We're going to fight for a government in Washington that doesn't represent liberal special interests or woke corporations or woke CEOs or Democrat activists that want our children, teach our children that our country and our values are bad. We're going to fight for the values that make our country great because we are the greatest country in the history of the world. We have to stand up every day and fight for our faith, our families, and this country we love. So as I said, I just got elected to be the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. And that means my job over the next year and a half is not only just raise $1 gazillion to make sure we get good candidates, but also talk about how crazy these Senate Democrats are. Make sure we have strong conservative Republicans running, and make sure we take back the majority, which we will. I have my oldest grandson loves military. He's going to be a paratrooper like my adopted father. And I recently took him to a military museum, and they asked the kids, they asked anybody if they knew the Pledge of Allegiance. And so my grandson was all excited. He raised his hat immediately. So let's all do the same thing. Let's all stand up and say the pledge and what we believe in. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As a grandparent, you get pretty excited when you watch your children, your grandchildren grow up to believe in this country. And so I'm proud of my daughters We have 6 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, and I think they're all going to grow up to be great conservatives. But we're living in a nation where the Democrat Party, woke athletes, and woke CEOs, big tech, Hollywood, academia, and the liberal media are attacking our values every day. They attack the values that are embodied in the pledge, the national anthem, our flag, and our Constitution. They shame us and cancel us when we fight to defend our values, our faith, and our freedoms. No more. When you see groups like this, you know we're winning. Watching my grandson that day gives me hope that our future generations won't lose sight of the importance of our flag, our anthem, our flag, and they will respect the values that my adoptive father fought for and as a member of the 82nd Airborne in World War II. But as we all know, it's going to take all of us to fight back this woke mob and these radical Democrats who are trying to destroy the values that we all believe in this great nation. The backlash against the Democrats, woke athletes, CEOs, big tech, Hollywood, academia, and their liberal media is coming. It's because we're doing it. If you want to see a backlash, we can do it together. We can do it by winning in 22. We should win in 22. We can win in 22. We will win in 22. Thank you. God bless America. God bless every one of you. God bless our values. Bye-bye.
Tonight, on Q&A, historian Donald Ritchie tells us about Drew Pearson, a man who derailed the political careers of several members of Congress and attracted the attention and anger of every president from FDR to Nixon.
He had a column called The Washington Merry-Go-Round that appeared in over 600 newspapers every single day, even holidays and weekends. And he did that from 1932 until he died in 1969. The column continued then under Jack Anderson. He also had a radio show on Sunday nights, on the very popular radio show on the news, and he also tried to make it into television in the early 50s. He was a best-selling author for his books. He was a man who told the truth, as he said, and he said, when you hit the truth, it hurts the most. He told what politicians really would prefer not to see in the newspapers. And he tried to get behind the news and to tell people what was really going on in Washington. And as a result, he ruffled a lot of feathers, especially presidents of the United States senators, representatives, British prime ministers, and assorted other politicians.
Historian emeritus of the Senate and author of The Columnist, Donald Ritchie, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN's Q&A. You can also listen to Q&A as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
C-SPAN's Washington Journal. Every day we take your calls live on the air, on the news of the day, and we discuss policy issues that impact you. Coming up Monday morning, a preview of the week ahead at the White House with Politico White House and Washington reporter Daniel Lippman. Also a discussion on critical race theory with Bryn Mawr College Assistant Professor of Education Chanel Wilson and American Enterprise Institute resident fellow Ian Rowe. And Stat Washington correspondent Lev Thatcher on Big Pharma political donations in campaign 2020. Watch C-SPAN's Washington Journal live at 7 Eastern Monday morning. And be sure to join the discussion with your phone calls, Facebook comments, texts, and tweets.
President Biden announced on Thursday that the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan will be complete by August 31st. After his remarks, President Biden answered several questions from reporters.
Good afternoon. Earlier today, I was briefed by our senior military and national security leaders on the status of the drawdown of U.S. forces and allied forces in Afghanistan. When I announced our drawdown in April, I said we would be out by September, and we're on track to meet that target. Excuse me. Our military mission in Afghanistan will conclude on August 31st. The drawdown is proceeding in a secure and orderly way, prioritizing the safety of our troops as they depart. Our military commanders advised me that once I made the decision to end the war, we needed to move swiftly to conduct the main elements of the drawdown. And in this context, speed is safety. And thanks to the way in which we have managed our withdrawal, no one U.S. forces or any forces have been lost. Conducting our drawdown differently would have certainly come with an increased risk of safety to our personnel. To me, those risks were unacceptable. And there was never any doubt that our military would perform this task efficiently and with the highest level of professionalism. That's what they do. And the same is true of our NATO allies and partners who have supported, we are supporting and supporting us as well as they conclude their retrograde. I want to be clear. The U.S. military mission in Afghanistan continues through the end of August. We retain personnel and capacities in the country, and we maintain some authority, the same authority under which we've been operating for some time. As I said in April, the United States did what we went to do in Afghanistan, to get the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 and deliver justice to Osama bin Laden, and to degrade the terrorist threat to keep Afghanistan from becoming a base from which attacks could be continued against the United States. We achieved those objectives. That's why we went. We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build. And it's the right and the responsibility of the Afghan people alone to decide their future and how they want to run their country. Together, with our NATO allies and partners, we have trained and equipped over nearly 300,000 current serving members of the military, the Afghan National Security Force, and many beyond that who are no longer serving. Add to that hundreds of thousands more Afghan national defense and security forces trained over the last 2 decades. We provided our Afghan partners with all the tools, let me emphasize, all the tools, training, equipment of any modern military. We provided advanced weaponry, and we're going to continue to provide funding and equipment, and we'll ensure they have the capacity to maintain their Air Force. But most critically, as I stressed in my meeting just 2 weeks ago with President Ghani and Chairman Abdullah, Afghan leaders have to come together and drive toward a future that the Afghan people want and they deserve. In our meeting, I also assured Ghani that U.S. support for the people of Afghanistan will endure. We will continue to provide civilian and humanitarian assistance, including speaking out for the rights of women and girls. I intend to maintain our diplomatic presence in Afghanistan, and we are coordinating closely with our international partners in order to continue to secure the international airport. And we're going to engage in a determined diplomacy to pursue peace and a peace agreement that will end this senseless violence. I've asked Secretary of State Blinken and our Special Representative for Afghanistan Reconciliation to work vigorously with the parties in Afghanistan, as well as the regional and international stakeholders to support a negotiated solution. To be clear, countries in the region have an essential role to play in supporting a peaceful settlement. We'll work with them, and they should help step up their efforts as well. We're going to continue to work for the release of detained Americans, including Ferrix. I want to pronounce the name correctly. I misspoke, so that he can return to his family safely. We're also going to continue to make sure that we take on the Afghan nationals who work side by side with U.S. forces, including interpreters and translators, since we're no longer going to have military there after this. We're not going to need them, and they have no jobs. We're also going to be vital to our efforts, they've been very vital, and so their families are not exposed to danger as well. We've already dramatically accelerated the procedure time for special immigrant visas to bring them to the United States. Since I was inaugurated on January 20th, we've already approved 2,500 special immigrant visas to come to the United States. Up to now, fewer than half have exercised their right to do that. Half have gotten on aircraft and commercial flights and come, and the other half believe they want to stay, at least thus far. We're working closely with Congress to change the authorization legislation so that we can streamline the process of approving those visas. And those who